What's up, boys? I wanted to make a quick video talking about all the buffs and consumables and items and stuff that we're using for the AQ speedruns these days. I've had some people in the comments asking me if I could tell them what a specific buff is, or if I could just make a video going over everything that we're using. So I'm going to try to do that real fast for you guys. First of all, I have pre-popped a bunch of stuff. I have a Roids pre-popped right there. I have a AV armor buff, which is 10% armor buff that you get from turning in 20 armor scraps from getting a kill in Alterac Valley. I have every protection potion popped. The fire one gets used by Meteor, Shadow gets used by Shadow Storm. Nature protection potion is obvious, it's AQ, Sons of Nature damage. Arcane protection potion is for Scarum, Arcane Explosions. The frost one is kind of just padding my buff slots because I think it's fun, but it may potentially get used by like a blizzard on Twin Imps. A lot of people have been saying that the buff cap removal being a thing in Anniversary is like a bad thing. It's like super degenerate and stuff. And I don't necessarily disagree. It is a little excessive, the amount of shit we're using, but I just think it's fun to get a lot of buffs. I really like when there's like 4 bars here or more in combat. I think it looks hilarious, especially after playing with the 32 buff limit before, right? So let's go over my bags real fast before I start talking about my actual buffs when I've unbooned and we're in the middle of the run. Everything down here is pretty self-explanatory besides maybe the mug down here. People might not know what this is. This is an event you can get twice, or an item you can get twice a year from two different events. I believe July 4th and New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, I think. And it just gives you a slow fall for 30 seconds, so you can only use out of combat. Mongoose, obviously, fire protection or resistance. Smoked Desert Dumpling. The Blessed Sunfruits are actually really useful for speedruns because we're basically never going to get another Smoked Desert Dumpling aside from the start of the raid. There's just never 10 seconds where we're sitting down waiting. Chocolates / fire toasted buns here. 2% hit. I believe this one is the spell damage and this one's defense. Obvious explosives here. Whippers, Zanzas. Oil of Immolations. These are pretty good to pre-pop before specific pulls. And in some cases, actually during pulls when there's enough mobs. Just got to keep in mind that these reset your swing timer, so you don't want to be chaining these in the middle of combat or else you're going to lose damage if it's not like a 25 mob pull. Elixir Poison Resistances are basically required to do AQ on Alliance. You're trolling if you don't use these. Snowballs, I'm sure most of you guys have seen the YouTube short. These are very good. And obviously, a lot of people knew about these before the YouTube short too, but I had no idea about these until about a few weeks ago, and they're very strong in like a lot of different places in this raid and others. This stuff I assume is obvious for most people, but if it isn't, it's a major healing protection potion, sharpening stones for crit on the weapons, black juju, which does not stack with Winterfall Firewater, if you didn't know that, green juju, which is strength. This one's AP, the black one. The green one is strength, and it doesn't stack with Elixir of Giants. Mighty Rage Pots, I'm definitely using a lot more Mighty Rage Pots in this raid than I was in either BWL or MC speedruns. There's just a lot more pot CDs to potentially be used here. A lot of people actually like using these all the way down the Slayer pack hallway as well. Because, oh, I just got to follow. I'm not even live. That's funny. Because some people think that you don't really need the stone shields when you're playing Alliance. I still like using the stone shields just for safety, but there's definitely room to use like 10 plus Mighty Rage Pots per run. Lips, basically never using these unless like it's an emergency or I'm AoE lip taunting. Boggling Roots, these are this buff right here. These give you 1 physical damage for 10 minutes, so it's not much. It's like maybe 5 DPS, but if 25 warriors are all doing that, that's like almost 100 DPS across the whole raid, right? So it all adds up. Rumsy Rum, there has been actually a bug with these this fresh, I've heard, where some people are having disconnect issues in AQ if they have their frames uncapped and they have the drunk effect. I haven't personally been having any problems with that, but I've heard a lot of people are having issues with that. Gift of Arthas is a 30-minute buff. It's this one right here. It makes anything that attacks you take increased physical damage from like the entire raid. It also gives you a little bit of shadow resistance, so it's just a minor thing, but it's another one of those items that you wouldn't pop if buff cap was a thing, but since it is not a thing, you're just using everything you can, right? So Elixir of Fortitude, Elixir of Superior Defense, and major Troll's Blood potions. Once again, very minor. This is items that you would pre-pop before you got world buffs back in 2019, but might as well just slam everything you can now, right? So Greater Arcane Protection Potion and Greater Firepower Potion, whatever it's called, Elixir of Greater Firepower. These are both used just to buff up the damage of the Dragon's Breath Chili. This thing in total is going to do like maybe 10 DPS across an entire raid, but it all adds up just like the Boggling Roots. Boons, obviously. I bring a little heart candy usually on all of my warriors for speedruns that some of my friends sent me on Valentine's Day, just for good luck, you know. I actually have a second Roids here. I pre-popped one as well before I got my AV armor buff, and then I have a second one. The idea here was that if I ever felt like I needed to use the Swiftness of Zanza during the run, I can put a Roids back on later. Most of the gear here is self-explanatory. We got our frost weapons, a couple of gear swaps. I'm actually not really bringing a healing set for Diamond Flask this fresh. Kind of feel like I don't have the bag space with all the shit I'm bringing. So it's just the healing weapons that I'm bringing for that at the moment. We have the Ravager, which I meant to use on the Gigapole in this run, but I unfortunately forgot, I forgot to remove my weapons from my set swap. So switching to my mount set, unfortunately removed the Ravager, and I didn't get to try it on the Gigapole. I was planning on using the Empyrean Demolisher right here for the Slayer packs post Twin Imps, but I forgot to do that too. There's so much shit going on in the middle of the speedruns that sometimes I forget to use trinkets, sometimes I forget things that I have never forgotten before, or like just forget things that I had planned on trying. My mind's going like a million miles a minute during these runs, so a lot of the time I'm just trying to keep it simple, which is why I usually don't do a lot of gear swapping. The AV trinket here is only in my bags for teleporting back to get the AV buff after I get my armor scraps at the start of a game. Barrag's Peasant Collar can be used in two places. Viscidus to help break the when he's frozen phase like a little quicker after you have already done the 300 or 200, whatever it is, frost hits. It can also be used before you pull Huron to, I believe, help soak like the poison bolts and stuff, but I haven't tried that yet myself. I think everything else is pretty obvious. We got our mount set stuff here, our movement speed stuff for the bug tunnel. Let's jump forward a little bit here to where I'm in combat, and we can see if there's any buffs that aren't super obvious that I can maybe talk about. So we got our world buffs, obviously, our flask, DMF, elemental sharpening stones, etc. Here's all protection potions. I think we pretty much have gone over most of these things now that I think about it. This is badge, True Shot Aura. Yeah, I don't think we really need to discuss too many of the actual buffs in combat, but it is crazy to see just how big the friggin' buff bar is at this point, man. Like, look at this. At this point, I have 50 buffs because this is 12 per row, right? 50 buffs, so I would already be 18 buffs past buff cap in 2019, which is just insane. But I don't think there's too many more things I need to go over in terms of our buff and items we're bringing and shit. If there's anything that you guys see that I didn't talk about up here, maybe just leave a comment and I can reply to it. But I think this is pretty much everything. So this is the greater firepower I was talking about. This is Dragon's Breath Chili, if you weren't aware. Here's the festival buffs that we talked about. 2% hit, a little bit of spell damage. This is defense. So two more things I want to talk about before I end the video. First is the Masterwork target dummies here. These things do an AoE taunt when you put them on the ground. They have about 5,000 HP. Really useful for saving your life if something's hitting you and it's about to kill you, or for a situation like the pre-Huron Gigapole where we have like 30 mobs on screen that we're trying to fight at the same time. These are really good to help mitigate a lot of damage. And also the Stone Shield interaction with the AV armor buff I wanted to mention. The AV armor buff makes the Stone Shield give you an extra 10% armor, so it's multiplicative, and makes this give you, I think, 2.2k instead of 2,000. And these two things in combination make you really tanky for the post Twin Imps Slayer packs. So definitely good to use. That'll be everything. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video, guys. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs so I can monetize the videos. I'd appreciate that, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.